So please let me know again if the mic is working, if there is audio. Please make sure your phone is not muted. Okay? Okay? Finally. Okay, we'll do it all over again. 5:14:6 Srimad Bhagavatam. तत्र च क्वचित् आतोपदकनिभान् विषयान् उपधावति पानभोजनव्यवयादिव्यसनलोलुपः. Is there screen? Sometimes in his house in the sky, Gandharvapura, the conditioned soul drinks, eats, and has sex. Being overly attached, he chases after the objects of the senses, just as a deer chases a mirage in the desert. Purport: there are two worlds, the spiritual and the material. The material world is false like a mirage in the desert. In the desert, animals think they see water, but actually there is none. Similarly, those who are animalistic try to find peace within the desert of material life. It is repeatedly said in different shastras that there is no pleasure in this material world. Furthermore, even if we agree to live without pleasure, we are not allowed to do so. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that the material world is not only full of miseries, dukhalayam, but also temporary, ashashvatam. Bhagavad Gita 8.15. Even if we want to live here amid miseries, material nature will not allow us to do so. It will oblige us to change bodies and enter another atmosphere full of miserable conditions. So we have already said all the Mangalacharan prayers, so I'm just going to go to the explanation. So, in this verse, two things are important. Pana bhojana vyavayadi and atapodaka nibhan, these two. So, Pana bhojana vyavayadi are the sum total of all the activities of the conditioned souls in this material world. Pana means drinking, bhojana means eating, and vyavaya means sex. Vyasana, this is the engagement of the debauchees of this material world. We are conditioned souls, we are referred to here as debauchees. Debauchee means one who cheats on his spouse. So, our real spouse is Krishna. We are supposed to be, see here, Shriyah patir yajnapatir prajapatir dhyam patir lokapatir dharapatir patir gatis chandhaka vrishni satvatam prasidatam me bhagavan satam patih. May Lord Sri Krishna, who is the worshipable Lord of all devotees, the protector and glory of all the kings, like Andhaka and Vrishni of the Yadu dynasty, the husband of all goddesses of fortune, the director of all sacrifices, and therefore the leader of all living entities, the controller of all intelligence, the proprietor of all planets, spiritual and material, and the supreme incarnation on the earth, the supreme all in all, be merciful upon me. So Krishna is referred to here as Pati in many ways. Pati means also husband. So he is our real Pati, but we have forsaken him for many trillions upon trillions of years, and we have been roaming in this material world like a debauchee, trying to find other relationships. So this is a problem. And Pana Bhojana Vyavayadi, we are after sense gratification, and sense gratification starts with the tongue. Because even if you want to enjoy every other sense gratification, what are the four sinful activities? There is Dyutam Panam Striya Asuna. What is the verse? 117:38. Dyutam Panam Striya Suna Yatra Dharmas Chaturvidha. Adharma, irreligious activities involve Dyutam means gambling. Panam means drinking alcohol. Striya, sex life. Tuna means meat eating. So in these, if you see, two of them are connected with the tongue, eating meat and alcohol, intoxication, connected with the tongue. And when tongue is so uncontrolled, then one wants to have sex, because Prabhupada explained that when one eats uncontrollably, not only in quantity but also in quality, if it is rajasic and tamasic food, and also without restriction, even if it is with restrictions. Sometimes meat eaters are they follow some restrictions. They follow diet. They keep their body fit. But if they eat rajasic and tamasic food, the mind cannot be controlled, because it is not why the tongue. First of all, Annamaya. We start from Annamaya stage. You know what are the 5 stages of existence? No clue. What are the 5 stages of existence? Stages of realization. Huh? 3, huh? What are 3? Huh? Don't know means don't say. Okay, so here, as this is Bhagavad Gita 13.5, I hope all are here. Dhyanamaya. Okay, so let's see. So you see, this is the progressive. When we when we grow, we are supposed to mature, right? What is actually that maturity? What does it mean by being mature? So this is actually what it means. As stated before, kshetra is the field of activities, and there are 2 kinds of kshetrajna. Kshetra means field, and this body is the field. And kshetrajna, jna means the knower of the field. We know our body to an extent, not 100%, little bit, whatever we are allowed to know by the Lord. The individual living entity and the supreme living entity. The Paramatma, he knows everything, what is going on. So kshetrajnas, there are 2 kshetrajnas in the body, and this kshetra is the body. As stated in the Taittiriya Upanishad 251, Brahma Puchham Pratishtha, there is a manifestation of the Supreme Lord's energy known as Annamaya, dependence upon food for existence. This is a materialistic realization of the Supreme. So the babies, when they born, when we are born, we come out, we only have Annamaya realization. Just food. That's it. They don't have any more understanding than that. Mostly animals, they live on this. They have a little bit of prana, but almost zero jnana, vijnana and ananda. Those are the other 3. So we'll go there. So you see, Annamaya, dependence upon food for existence. That is the most important thing in life. Okay? This is a materialistic realization, the Supreme. Then in Pranamaya, after realizing the Supreme Absolute Truth in food, one can realize the Absolute Truth in the living symptoms or life forms. When one grows a little bit, like 4 or 5 years old, then he will have a sense of his own individuality, likes, dislikes, and then he also recognizes others. Oh, there are other people who are also persons, and he tries to make friends, or sometimes he may fight. So there is individuality and everything that comes with it. He understands that much. He does not understand more than that. Then in Jnanamaya, next stage is, so Annamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya. Realization extends beyond the living symptoms to the point of thinking, feeling and willing. He understands higher things, thinking, feeling, and he understands maybe others. He also understands other people's feelings if he's a little bit more mature. This is what is maturity. He realizes more. He is more aware. Thinking, feeling and willing. Then there is Brahman realization called Vijnanamaya. in which the living entity's mind and life symptoms are distinguished from the living entity himself. So this is transcendental realization. So we can understand that all materialistic people are in Annamaya, Pranamaya, little bit Jnanamaya. Even that is also partial. To consider, oh, this is my country, or even these things are just simply Pranamaya and Jnanamaya a little bit. Vijnanamaya means to completely understand that I am soul, I am not matter. So we realize that the living entity's mind and life symptoms are distinguished from the living entity himself. So to understand that I am not the body, that is Vijnanamaya. Even that is not highest. The next and supreme stage is Anandamaya, realization of the all blissful nature. And this is achieved only in devotional service when one becomes fully happy. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, na shochati, na kankshati, samah sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. So when one achieves devotional service, then he becomes Prasannatma. Evam Prasanna Manaso. This is Anandamaya. Anandamayo Bhyasat. Vedas say Anandamayo Bhyasat. That means we are by nature supposed to be Anandamaya, full of happiness. But in this material world, that is elusive. We cannot find it. We are struggling like the mirage in the desert. So whatever happiness people are feeling in this material world is like the happiness of the animal when it sees a mirage in the desert. It hopes, wow, finally I have water, now I'll run. So that is the happiness, that is the hope with which people are going forward in this material world. And once one reaches there, there's no real happiness. It's in fact an illusion. One is in even more problem now than before. Because before running, he was not as thirsty. I mean, he was thirsty, he was bad already. But now, after quickly running there, he's even more thirsty now. So, in this way, the material happiness is always elusive. So, these are the 5 stages of realization. Remember, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. Paying attention? 5 stages. Okay. Out of these, the first 3, Annamaya, Pranamaya and Jnanamaya, involve the fields of activities of the living entities. Transcendental to all these fields of activities is the Supreme Lord who is called Anandamaya. Vedanta Sutra also describes Supreme by saying Anandamaya Bhyasa. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is by nature full of joy. To enjoy his transcendental bliss, he expands into Vijnanamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya and Annamaya. In the field of activities, the living entity is considered to be the enjoyer, and different from him is the Anandamaya. That means that if the living entity decides to enjoy dovetailing himself with the Anandamaya, then he becomes perfect. So the Lord is always happy. Anandamaya Bhyasa. So if we connect with him, then we will be happy. But we have come into this world for Pana, Bhojana and Vyavayadi. Adi means there are others, other kinds of happiness. But these are the chief. Shishnodar Parayana Krishna Nahi Pai. So we have gone there. What is this number? Anthya 6.227. Jihvar lalase jay iti uti dhai Shishnodar Parayana Krishna Nahi Pai. So the program of sense gratification is one straight line from the mouth to the genitals. One straight line. So Jihvar lalase. If one eats and drinks indiscriminately, then there is pressure on the stomach, and then that pressure goes, there is weight in the stomach because of the food, and then that pressure transfers to the genitals, and then one wants to have sex. So in this way, one becomes Shishnodara Parayana. Jihvar Lalase. Lalase means greed. Out of greed for the desire to satisfy the tongue, one becomes a slave of the stomach and the genitals. If we see the modern civilization as well, economic development. What is economic development? In the body of the society, Mukhabahurupadebhyaha, see this. Mukhabahurupadebhyaha purushasyaashramaihi saha chatvaro jagnyare varna gunair vipradayah prithak. This is the varnashram system. Now, what is the connection? We will explain. See, each of the four social orders headed by the Brahmanas was born through the different combinations of the modes of nature from the face, arms, thighs, and feet of the Supreme Lord in his universal form. Thus, the four spiritual orders were also generated. Now, you see, in the society, the head of the society is the Brahmanas, the arms are the Kshatriyas, the belly is the Vaishyas, and the legs are the Shudras. Now, there is a parallel. If we see, when the goal of life becomes only to satisfy the tongue and the genitals, we will also take that part of the society as the most important, the belly and the genitals, which is the Vaishya, economic development. Economic development, why they want economic development? So that they can have money, and with the money, they want to enjoy. What they enjoy with money? In fact, Parikshit Maharaj was ready to kill the personality of Kali Yuga. And then Kali said, I am also your subject, I am also your citizen, please save me. Then he said, okay, you go to places where there are, what is that? Adharma. What is adharma? These four we have just seen. Dyutam Panam Striya Suna. So that means gambling, intoxication, illicit sex, and meat eating. Wherever these four are, you stay there. But Kali said, there are nowhere. There's no place in your kingdom that have these things. There is no adharma at all. That is Rajarshi. That is how a king should be. So he said, okay, then you stay where there is gold. Because wherever there is gold, there are all these four things. And that's actually tomorrow's verse. It's actually compared to stool. Next verse, actually, today is 5:14.6. In 5:14.7, gold is compared to stool. Because both yellow color. That is explained in the next verse. But people are very attracted to this stool like gold. So in this way, one wants economic development so that one can keep his belly and genitals happy. There is dharma, there is artha, there is kama, and moksha. Dharma means religious principles, religious rituals. And usually Brahmanas, they are supposed to follow and teach others of the religious principles and guide, counsel even the government how to run the country so that everyone is spiritually advancing. Then there is Kshatriya, who they need artha, wealth. So this wealth is generated by the Vaishyas. For the entire Varnashram system, Vaishyas generate wealth. And the Kshatriyas, they take taxes from the Vaishyas. And then the Shudras, they are employed by the Vaishyas. So that's how they get their money. The Kshatriyas get the treasury of the country and the palace in which the king lives. How does he earn? Because of the Vaishyas again. So the Vaishyas, They support the entire varnashram system. Just like our stomach supports our entire body. But just to keep the body alive is not the purpose of having the body, right? That is a means. What is the end? We need to have a healthy body, that's for sure. But what for? To execute devotional service, Krishna consciousness, or bhakti, Krishna bhakti. It is said here, 1 to 10. Kamasya nendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata जीवस्य तत्व जिज्ञासा नार्थो यश्चेह कर्मभिः. Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. As long as we can be preserved, as long as we don't die, that's fine. As long as the body lives, let it live so-called healthily as much as possible, so that we can engage our body in Krishna consciousness, in Krishna's service. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's works. It should be our goal. Maintaining the body is not our goal. So now with this atheistic civilization, this is becoming the only focus is artha and kama, economic development and kama, sense gratification, which is Krishnodar Parayana. There is no dharma, there is no moksha. So this is the problem. And that's why we're becoming more and more animalistic, because how is the animal different from us then? Or how are we different from the animals then? Because dharmo hetesham adhiko vishesho, na dharma we give up and artha kama. What is the point? We are simply, decorated animals or special animals, that's all. Two-legged animal, Dvipada Pashu. So, Pana, Bhojana and Vyavaya. You can see, Jaihvya Upasthyadi. We have hmm. 429-54. See, Sumanaha samadharma dharmanam strinam sharana ashrame pushpa madhugandhavat kshudratamam kamya karma vipakajam kama sukhalavam jaihvyaupasthyadi vichinvantam mithuni bhuya tad abhiniveshita manasam षडंघ्रि गण साम गीतवद अति मनोहर वनितादि जनालापेष्वतितराम अति प्रलोभित कर्णम अग्रे वृकयूथवद आत्मन आयुर्हरतो अहोरात्रान्तान काललव विशेषान अविगणय्य गृहेषु विहरन्तं पृष्ठत एव परोक्षम अनुप्रवृत्तो लुब्धकः कृतान्तोऽन्तः शरेण यम इह पराविध्यति तम इमं आत्मानं अहोराजन भिन्न हृदयं द्रष्टुम अर्हसीति. See, especially this kama sukhalavam, it's just insignificant happiness. Yanmaithunadis grahamedhi sukham hit tuchham. Insignificant. It's not only insignificant, it's an abominable happiness. What is that? Jaihvya upasthyadi. Jaihva means related to jihva, tongue, enjoyment of the tongue. Aupasthya means sex enjoyment. Adi, beginning with. Vichinvantam, always thinking of. So you see, woman who is very attractive in the beginning but in the end very disturbing is exactly like the flower which is attractive in the beginning and detestable at the end. With woman, the living entity is entangled with lusty desires and he enjoys sex just as one enjoys the aroma of a flower. He thus enjoys a life of sense gratification from his tongue to his genitals, and in this way the living entity considers himself very happy in family life. United with his wife, he always remains absorbed in such thoughts. He feels great pleasure in hearing the talks of his wife and children, which are like the sweet humming of bumblebees that collect honey from flower to flower. He forgets that before him is time which is taking away his lifespan with the passing of day and night. He does not see the gradual diminishing of his life, nor does he care about the superintendent of death who is trying to kill him from behind. Just try to understand this. You are in a precarious position and are threatened from all sides. So, we are busy with satisfying from the tongue to the genitals, and in the meantime, our lifetime is being robbed. You see, what is that verse? In the 11th canto. Oh, what is this? Not this. What is that verse? Just by being born, one is attached to so many things in this world. I think 11, 19, 24. No. It's just very frustrating. Just by birth, material birth, one becomes attached. Long life. Let's see if you can find what this 11, 21, 24. Okay, so what is the verse? उत्पत्त्यैव हि कामेषु प्राणेषु स्वजनेषु च आसक्त मनसो मर्त्या आत्मनो अनर्थ हेतुषु उत्पत्त्या एव, simply by birth. Simply by material birth, human beings become attached within their minds to personal sense gratification, long duration of life, sense activities, bodily strength, sexual potency, and friends and family. Their minds are thus absorbed in that which defeats their actual self-interest. You see, in today's verse, one is the Gandharvapura is mentioned, the palace in the forest, which does not exist but which is an illusion. And one becomes very busy, trying to enjoy in this illusory palace in the forest. Now, when we go into a forest and get lost, we have to search out the way to come out of it. So we have to search out a way to come out. But instead, we become busy in making our forest life comfortable. We try to build this and that. We try to be happy in so many ways. Here we completely lose ourselves. Sometimes we spend so much time in this material world trying to, actually later on it will be said in the later on verses, that one will spend so much time searching for a house and buying or staying. So many things we spend our time on, which is in the ultimate sense has no meaning, because it's all going to be temporary. It's all going to be finished. We have to use our time for our eternal occupation. So every time we want to do something, we should think, is this an activity that is related to the body? Of course, in Grihastha Ashram, some of it is required. But then after that, it should not be extended beyond the point of necessity. Anartha. But, you see, we always see this verse, but let's read the Sanskrit. Steyam himsanritam dambha kamah krodha smayo madha bhedo vairam avishvasah संस्पर्धा व्यसनानि च एते पंचदशानर्था हि अर्थमूला मता नृणाम तस्माद् अनर्थम अर्थाख्यम श्रेयोर्थी दूरतस्त्यजेत. Artha is used many times in this verse. You see, ete panchadasha anartha, okay, arthamula mata nirnam tasmad anartham arthakhyam shreyorthi shreyah arthi duratasthyaji. See, this is very important. Anartha, what is it? Anartham arthakhyam. This is the problem. Anartha means that which is undesirable. Arthakhyam means wealth spoken of as if it is desirable. Something that is a want, they think it is a need. They actually want something. It is not a need. For example, a big TV in the house, for example. It's not a need. Nobody will die without a TV. But it becomes a want. But people think, oh, without a TV, how can a house be without a TV? So they think it is a necessity. It's not a necessity. So similarly, there are so many anarthas, but they go on in the name of arthas, as if they are something meaningful. Anartha means unnecessary. Artha means necessities. So, Shreya Arthi means one who desires the ultimate benefit of life. Panchadasha Anartha, unwanted things. Arthamula, based on wealth. Now you see, so theft, violence, speaking lies, duplicity, lust, anger, perplexity, pride, quarreling, enmity, faithlessness, envy and dangers caused by women, gambling and intoxication are the 15 undesirable qualities that contaminate men because of greed for wealth. And especially the worst of all is faithlessness. Because with faithlessness, everything else comes. There will be duplicity, lust, anger, perplexity, pride. When we have wealth, they don't have faith in God. I have full power. I will do whatever I want. And there is no need to pray to God. People think like that. Those who have wealth, hardly they are religious. They become intoxicated with such wealth and they become faithless. So in the endeavor for sense gratification, to gratify my senses, I want wealth so that I can gratify my senses even more. So in order to find wealth, I work hard. So to get one thing, I'm doing another thing. And to get that thing, I'm doing another thing. To get that thing, I'm doing another thing. All, you see, layers of anarthas. The real thing what I need for preservation, just food, some shelter and some clothing. Bas, enough. In Hindi they say roti kapda makan. That's it. Roti kapda makan. And that's why Sukadeva Goswami, you see how he says, 224, okay. You see, Satyam kshitau kim kashipoh prayasair bahau swasiddhe hyupabarhanai kim satyanjalau kim purudhanna patriya digval kalado satikim dukulaihi. When there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palms of his hands, what is the necessity of various varieties of utensils? When there is ample covering or the skins of trees, what is the necessity of clothing? So you see how he is, bringing our focus to what is arthas and what are anarthas, and what is our paramartha, or highest necessity. And next, Chirani kim pathe Chirani kim pathina santi dishanti bhiksham naivangripaha parabhritah saritopya sushyan ruddha guhaha kimajito vatinopasannan kasmad bhajanti kavayo dhanadurmadandhan. Are there no torn clothes lying on the common road? That means if there are clothes and some torn cloth, we can use that. He's saying like this. Of course, this is a very high standard. Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms in charity? So they are giving food. Do the rivers being dried up no longer supply water to the thirsty? So our food, water problem is solved. Food problem, clothing problem is solved. Sleeping problem is solved. Are the caves of the mountains now closed? Or above all, does the Almighty Lord not protect the fully surrendered souls? Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth? So caves of the mountains serve as house, home. Why we need to build a house? So in this way, he is bringing our focus to how we waste time. These things we consider necessary, right? Of course, he's giving a very, very, very high standard of, like Babaji or Avadhut. But that is the point, that we have to minimize as much as possible our material necessities. We cannot imitate this position, but he is bringing our attention to how even the necessities which we think are necessities are not necessities. Ultimately, if one is really ready. So, there was a nice incident about this. Lomarsha Muni, he was chanting Hare Krishna. He was chanting. Lomarsha Muni is a sage. You know this Lomarsha Muni? He was benedicted. He has such a benediction that he will live so long that when one Brahma dies and the creation is finished, one hair from his body will drop. When all the hairs of his body drop, then he will die. How many universal creations he will see? So he has a unimaginably long life, right? Astronomical is not enough, because the whole astronomical situation will be destroyed multiple times, many millions of times before he will die. So he has such a long life. So he once was chanting and it was raining and he was continuing to chant. So Narad Muni was passing by. He asked, "My dear Lomarsha Muni, why don't you build a small cottage at least, like a bhajan kutir, something?" Lomarsha Muni said, "That will be a waste of time. The time taken to build that thing will be a waste of time. I rather use that time for my chanting. I will tolerate the rain." Who has time? Almost infinite. Infinite time he has. And he is saying, that this is waste of time. Actually, even in our present human life, even now that we have come to Krishna consciousness, what are the instructions in the Bhagavatam? Why do we take this human life, even as devotees, a little bit more seriously? Why are we taking? Because, what is that? In a moment, it will be finished. Kshanabhangura. Yes. Kshanabhangura means in a moment our life can be finished. So while it is there, make best use of it by engaging in Krishna's service. In other words, some sense of urgency is being driven because of the temporary nature of this body. Oh, this body will go and then you will lose this opportunity while stocks last. Please come. Like the clearance sale. That kind of sale is necessary for inducing some people. But one who knows the benefit of a product, he will not wait for a clearance sale. He will purchase at whatever cost it is sold for. So, because we are not so Krishna conscious, we are not so interested, so we are sometimes, this temporary nature of the material body is given as an impetus for us to take this seriously. But if we go to Vaikuntha, there is no time. I mean, there is no existence of time, I'm saying. Not that there is no time like what we say here. Oh, I have no time. That means actually there is time, but I'm using it elsewhere. There is no existence of time. I mean, there is, but it's not like in the material world. So there is no force of time that should impel or propel us. There is no sense of urgency. Then why would they all serve Krishna? Here we are pushed. Hey, human life is going to end. Before you end, please make your life successful. There is urgency, pushing. But there is nothing to stop us. How will we stay motivated? What is the motive? What is the motivation to stay Krishna conscious? Here the motivation is, oh, next life I may become animal. we don't have attraction for Krishna. We are worried about our own going to hell or what. That's why we are taking this maybe a little bit seriously. Yeah. You see, when somebody is given some notice, oh, you have cancer, then he becomes even more serious. If he's a devotee, sometimes they lose faith. Hey, I'm chanting, why Krishna you gave me cancer? As if the body is never going to go. But some who are properly devotees, they become even more. Like, even in the example of Parikshit Maharaj, he was doing his duty as a king. When he heard the curse, okay, 7 days, okay, now I will leave everything and went. He became ultra serious when he has limited time. If we examine our actions every day, we don't act like we have limited time. We think we have unlimited time. Let me relax for a while. Let me do this, let me do that, let me watch this, let me watch. We get deviated and diverted from our real goal of life. So we don't see this is that's why a temporary short life in this Kali Yuga is very good actually, so that it will bring us back to focus. But that should not be the primary driving factor in our Krishna consciousness. We have to become more mature. That is called, today morning also we were reading in the Nectar of Devotion. In the beginning, the sadhana bhakti, the Vaidhi bhakti, where we follow the rules of the spiritual master. Spiritual masters say, wake up in the morning, Mangalarati, chanting, japa. So, on the order of the spiritual master, we may be forcing ourselves to do these things. But we cannot remain like that whole life. There has to be some bhava. And by bhava, I don't mean some gopi bhava. There has to be some, from the heart, I have to chant, how can I not? I have to wake up, how can I not? I have to preach to others, how can I not? Spontaneously, we must have that. That is becoming mature in devotional service, and that will increase over time, and it comes to 100%, and that's when one becomes a pure devotee. So it has to increase, not that we are doing 16 rounds and there is zero taste and there is zero feeling, and suddenly one day we wake up and we're in Gopi Bhava. It doesn't happen like that. It is a ramp which we will go. So we have to examine ourselves. Am I willingly doing this, or am I just doing because other devotees are forcing me to do this, or because other devotees are there, it won't be nice if I don't do. What is our motivation? So Pritirna yavan mai vasudeve namuchyate deha yogena tavat. Unless we come to the point of Krishna Preeti, there is no chance. there is zero chance of getting out of this material world. Zero. Evam manah karma vasham prayunkte avidyayatmanyupadhiyamane pritirna yavan mayi vasudeve namuchyate deha yogena tavat. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the living individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated by fruitive activity. Therefore, unless one has love for Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. If you ask any devotee whether you want to come back, he doesn't want to come back. Even materialists, many of them, if given a chance, they will not want to come back again and experience all the miserable conditions. But are we doing what is needed for us not to come back again? We only want the result, but we don't want to do what it takes to get the result. There is a word for that. It's called entitled. Feeling entitled. You want the title of being liberated. Entitled means he doesn't want to work for it. He thinks he deserves it for nothing. Why should we think that we deserve to not take birth again? We have to do what it takes. What is the meaning? We have to execute the order of the spiritual master, and we have to try to develop our attraction for Krishna. By following the order of the spiritual master, one's attraction for Krishna develops. One's attraction for the spiritual master develops, and through him, attraction to Krishna develops. So, that's what we have to come to. Otherwise, we will remain in this Pana Bhojana Vyavayadi. See, there is another verse again, the tongue and the genitals. This is Katham Priyaya Anukampitaya Sangam Rahasyam Ruchiranscha Mantran Suhrit Sutatsne Hasitah Shishunam Kalaksharanam Anurakta Chittaha Putran Smaramsta Duhitrir Hridaya Bhratrin Swasrirva Pitarau Chadino Grihan Manogno Ruparichadamscha Vrittischa Kulyah Pashubhritya Vargan Tyajeta Koshas Krudivehamanah Karmani Lobhad Avitrupta Kamah Aupasthya Jaihvyam Bahumanyamanah Katham Virajyeta Duranta Moha. You see, Aupasthya Jaihvam, again, same thing. Upastha means genitals and Jaihvam means the tongue. Bahumanyamanaha, considering as very important. Aupasthya Jaihvam Bahumanyamanaha. Katham Virajyeta Duranta Moha. How can a person who is most affectionate to his family, the core of his heart being always filled with their pictures, give up their association? Specifically, a wife is always very kind and sympathetic and always pleases her husband in a solitary place. Who could give up the association of such a dear and affectionate wife? Small children talk in broken language, very pleasing to hear, and their affectionate father always thinks of their sweet words. How could he give up their association? One's elderly parents and one's sons and daughters are also very dear. A daughter is especially dear to her father, and while living at her husband's house, she is always in his mind. Who could give up that association? Aside from this, in household affairs, there are many decorated items of household furniture, and there are also animals and servants. Who could give up such comforts? The attached householder is like a silkworm which weaves a cocoon in which it becomes imprisoned, unable to get out. Simply for the satisfaction of two important senses, the genitals and the tongue, one is bound by material conditions. How can one escape? This is like the sum total of material life. Not only our association with them, but association creates impressions in our mind, and those become memories. And memories haunt us, haunt us. Because even when the person is not there, all the memories of that person will rush into our mind. So, in this way, we are constantly in illusion. Duranta moha. How can one escape? How can one escape? So, therefore, Goswami means he has to give up this pana bhojana vyavayadi. He has to give up. Vacho vegam manasah krodha vegam jihva vegam udaropastha vegam etan vegan yo vishaheta dhirah sarvam api mam prithivim sashishyat. Vacho vegam. Vegam means the force of speech. We have the urge to speak. We want to speak always. Manasah krodha vegam, the force of the mind, the urges of the mind. Mind is raving around, raving after, all kinds of sense gratification, making plans, unlimited plans. Even when we are chanting, mind is making plans. Instead of listening, mind is making plans. Krodha vegam, the force of anger, the force of the tongue. Vacha and jihva. Jihva means when it is in the input stage. Of course, it can be output also actually. Tongue and vacha means the function of the tongue, which is speech. So jihva vegam means eating. Udar upastha vegam. Udar means belly and upastha means genitals. Etan veganyo vishaheta dhiraha sarvam api mam prithivim sashishyat. Vishaheta means one who can tolerate. Saheta. When it is added with V, it becomes Vishaheta. Sahishnuna. Sahishnuna means to tolerate. Vishaheta dhiraha. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger and the urges of the tongue, belly and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So a person is called a Goswami when he can tolerate these urges. When we say Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna, the tolerance, we usually ascribe the tolerance to situations in this world or to people in general when they trouble us. Actually, nobody can trouble us. Nobody really can trouble us. Only we can trouble ourselves. Because if others can trouble us, then why are some people not troubled? For example, situations like this will be troublesome, right? See, this is Rishabdev's condition. When he became Avadhuta, this was his condition. Rishabdev began to tour through cities, villages, mines, countrysides, valleys, gardens, military camps, cow pens, the homes of cowherd men, transient hotels, hills, forests, and hermitages. Wherever he traveled, all bad elements surrounded him, just as flies surround the body of an elephant coming from a forest. He was always being threatened, beaten, urinated upon, and spat upon. Sometimes people threw stones, stool, and dust at him, and sometimes people passed foul air before him. Thus, people called him many bad names and gave him a great deal of trouble. But he did not care about this, for he understood that the body is simply meant for such an end. He was situated on the spiritual platform, and being in his spiritual glory, he did not care for all these material insults. In other words, he completely understood that matter and spirit are separate, and he had no bodily conception. Thus, without being angry at anyone, he walked through the whole world alone. So, what is tolerance then? Tolerance means to tolerate our urges of our senses, the force of our senses. That is real tolerance. Because When somebody insults us, we have to tolerate. What we have to tolerate? The insults will be nothing if one does not identify with the body. If a devotee is, insulted, oh, you're a rascal, then in his heart he will think, yes, actually I'm a rascal only. You're right. You think I'm a big pandit or a big scholar or something? I'm a rascal. You're right. So he doesn't take those things very seriously. However bad words are used, yes, I deserve all of that because I left Krishna and for millions or trillions of years I have been here. You think I'm a big sadhu? I'm not. You can call all the bad words in the world. They are perfect descriptions of me. So he will think like this. When he thinks like this, the person who says this cannot harm him. Because actually nobody can harm. Our own mind will harm. When we have anger towards someone, who is suffering with that anger? We are suffering with that anger. Even when we can't even sleep in the night because of the anger. That person is happily sleeping, but we are suffering with the anger. Yeah. So it is our mind that is giving us trouble. That's why in the Bible also it is said, what profiteth a man who has gained the whole world, but who has lost his eternal soul? If we lose ourselves, even if we gain the whole world, we are a loser. Goswami, like a king is called Maharaj. Some sannyasi is also called Maharaj. What kind of Maharaj is he? He doesn't have a kingdom, he doesn't have money, he is a beggar. What kind of Maharaj is he? He is Maharaj because he is the king of his senses. He has conquered. Swami means master. He is the real master. The king is not the master. Because king is like this. Nirjitya dikchakram abhuta vigraho varasanastha samaraja vanditah griheshu maithunya sukheshu yoshitam krida mrigah purusha ishaniyate. This is the material Maharaj. Material Maharaj is like this. Having conquered the entire circle of directions and being thus free of conflict, a man sits on a splendid throne, Maharaj. Receiving praise from leaders who were once his equals. Now he surpassed them, he became the leader of leaders. Rajadhiraja, Maharaja. But when he enters the women's chambers, where sex pleasure is found, he is led about like a pet animal, O Lord. 10:51:51. So, this is the Maharaj. He has zero control over his senses, so he becomes a pet animal in the hands of his wife. That means, how can one become like that? When he has zero control of the senses. Because the wife satisfies the husband from tongue to genitals. She'll cook nicely, give food. Eat nicely, the belly becomes big. Then pressure is on the genitals, and then sex life. In this way, the material conditions increase. Children, home, wealth, everything starts from jihva upasthya, from the tongue. Our material life starts with the tongue. We are born, we suck the mother's breast for milk. Starts with that. And as we go, we expand. Especially Stri means one who expands. Stri. She will expand the material domain, kingdom of one's life. So, in this way, Shishno Daraparayana, Krishna nahi pai. We forget Krishna. So today's song, also we sang, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is singing that all my things, whatever I think are mine, are all yours. I am no more the master of my house, I am the servant, you are the master, Krishna. So, that's how we have to offer everything to Krishna and live like that. So this is the position of a person who is not is a material Maharaj in front of others. But when he goes to the bedroom, she is the Maharani. He is a dāsa. Krida Mriga, it is said. Krida Mriga means pet animal. So, but real Maharaj is one who has conquered this body is also like a city. Navadvara Pure Dehi. You know that verse? City of 9 gates. It's a fourth canto is mentioned, but also Bhagavad Gita is mentioned. Yeah, you see. Bhagavad Gita 5:13. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. So he is the real Maharaj who can control, who is the king of this city, who has controlled all his senses, and control means to engage them in Krishna Seva. And this control will come when one has higher taste. It is not a force, control by force. Rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva anivartate. Param drishtva means a higher taste. Because of that higher taste, higher attraction, one can give up the lower engagement of the senses. The same senses can then be used for Krishna service, like Ambarish Maharaj. So before we end, this is also relevant, especially for devotees. Je lila amrita veene, khaya jadi anna pane, tabe bhakter durbala jivana. Jar ek bindu pane, utfullita tanu mane, hase gaye karo ye nartana. Men become strong and stout by eating sufficient grains, but the devotee who simply eats ordinary grains but does not taste the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna gradually becomes weak and falls down from the transcendental position. However, if one drinks but a drop of the nectar of Krishna's pastimes, his body and mind begin to bloom and he begins to laugh, sing and dance. So if we just eat, you see, खाए यदि अन्न पाने तबे भक्तेर दुर्बल जीवन. So if a devotee engages only in khaya anna pane, eating and drinking, even if it is prasadam, if you just become focused on that, then tabe bhakter durbal jivan. Usually when we eat, we get strength, but this kind of eating, we will become weak spiritually. If we don't hear, so let's see the purport. All the devotees connected with the Krishna consciousness movement must read all the books that have been translated. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal, blissful life of transcendental pleasure. So this is important. Of course, it's a very big topic. We can go more and more, but let's stop it here. Any question or comment? Okay, no questions. We will stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.